Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Ward. I'm a registered civil celebrant and I'll be conducting the funeral service this morning. We'd kindly ask if anyone has a cell phone with them to turn it off or switch to silent. Thank you. On behalf of the Smith family, we'd like to welcome you all here this morning. We meet here today to honour the life of Harold George Smith. We acknowledge at this time the passing of our father, brother and friend, and give thanks for his part in our life and our part in his. We especially acknowledge Harry's children, Adrian, Christian, Eric and Tempest, and our hearts go out to them in this time of bereavement. We also acknowledge Harry's grandsons, Zale, Dylan, Kai and Fletcher, in their time of grief. His life has touched us all. Every one of us here has been affected, perhaps in a small way, or perhaps in a more transformative way, by the life of Harry. It's important for us to collectively acknowledge and accept that the world has now changed for us with his passing. We understand that life will not be the same without Harry in our lives. Together, let us open up our hearts and commemorate his life and the way it has touched us as children, family and friends. Let us begin this service with a Bible reading. As most of us know, Harry was a great fisherman, and this was Harry's favourite verse. His grandson Zale will be reading it to us this morning. Zale, could you come to the microphone? Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Zale, and I am Harry's grandson. This is a reading taken from Luke chapter 5 verses 1 to 11 from the Message Bible. Push out into the deep water. Once when he was standing on the shore on the lake of Gennesaret, the crowd was pushing in on him to better hear the word of God. He noticed 2 boats tied up. The fishermen had just left them and were out scrubbing their nets. He climbed into the boat that was Simon's and asked him to put him out a little from the shore. Sitting there, using the boat for a pulpit, he began to teach the crowd. When he'd finished teaching, he said to Simon, "Push out into the deep water and let your nets down for a big catch." Simon said, "Master, we've been fishing hard all night and we haven't even caught a minnow. But if you say so, I'll let out the nets." It was no sooner said than done. A huge haul of fish, straining the nets past capacity. They waved to their partners in another boat to come and help them. They filled both boats, nearly swamping them with the catch. Simon Peter, when he saw it, fell down to his knees before Jesus. "Master, leave. I'm a sinner, and I just can't handle this holiness. Leave me to myself." When they pulled in the catch of fish, awe overwhelmed Simon and everyone with him. It was the same with James and John, Zebedee's sons, co-workers with Simon. Jesus said to Simon, "There's nothing to fear. From now on, you'll be fishing for men and women." They pulled their boats up onto the beach, left them, nets and all, and followed him. Grandad called this a great day's fishing. The story of Harry. Harold George Smith was a man of action who loved the sea. Harry, as he was known by his friends, was an avid fisherman. His early life was spent moving from small country towns to other small country towns with his mother and his father, who was a diesel mechanic for the Victorian Railway. Harry's family finally settled in Warrnambool after his dad was stationed permanently at the Warrnambool train yards. It was here in Warrnambool that he learned to love the ocean and began his lifelong passion of fishing. It seemed he was always in trouble with Mum and Dad for wagging school and nicking off down to the river to fish. It was in Warrnambool that Harry met the real love of his life, Marion. Harry met Marion when they were merely kids. "Oh, I can't remember when she wasn't there," he recalls. In those early days, he was too young to ride in a boat, so you'd often see him hanging around the old pier, fishing with his childhood sweetheart sitting on the pier right next to him. Harry wasn't one to flinch when it came to hard work, but in his own words he said, work was only there to support the good things in life, and I think we all know that was fishing. Harry not only loved fishing, but he was a great deep sea fisherman. In his teenage years, Harry became a member of the local angling club, and it was there that he was introduced to big game fishing, or what he liked to call real fishing. Harry was humble about all of his achievements, and unlike most fishermen, was always one to understate his abilities. Everyone knew that Harry was a gun fisherman. One only had to walk into the lounge room or the pool room littered with trophies to see plenty of evidence of that. But it wasn't the competition that drew him to fishing. Harry loved the hunt. When we talked to his daughter Tempest and his three sons, Adrian, Christian and Eric, we see that it was a whole way of life. The kids tell me he was well known for his philosophical ways. Yes, Harry was quite a philosopher. It seems like when he wasn't actually fishing, the kids recall, he was always trying to teach life lessons by telling stories about fishing. His favourite saying, of course, was that life was like fishing. You never know what you're going to catch. Sadly, it was only 5 years ago that Harry had to give up the catch of his life. The real love of his life left him. It was Marion, my wife, who really made me a fisherman, he recalls. Without her, I couldn't have found the tackle or the car keys to get me to the boat. He talked of Marion's passing like fishing. He talked of the times where, like fishing, life could be heartbreaking, tough, agonising, leaving the soul hungry and empty-handed. He said the biggest test he had ever faced was watching Marion pass. He compared it to his fishing experiences. He said, letting go of my Marion was like catching a giant marlin. I worked so hard to get her, I caught the prize, but then the line broke, and in a whisper, she was gone. Harry was also a great club man. He loved to mix with the boys every Friday night at the Angling Club Hall. It was here that he captained the Warrnambool Angling Club several times and met his best mate Franco. He'd often tell his grandsons Zal, Dylan, Fletcher and Kai jokes about the stories of the boys in the fishing club. He loved to tell them about the tall stories that the fishermen would tell, about the one that got away and how big the fish were, but how they just wriggled out of the boat. His favourite joke to his grandkids was explaining the difference between a hunter and a fisherman. They'd all groan when they'd hear him say, "What's the difference between a hunter and a fisherman?" And they'd always have to reluctantly answer him, "A hunter lies and waits, and a fisherman waits and lies." It was in the angling club 35 years ago that he met his best mate, Franco. Franco tells of the times that they'd sit out waiting in the dead calm for something to bite. "Oh, Harry was more than a friend to me. He was my mentor," Franco enlightened me. Harry explained about life to Franco, and he usually did it to anyone who'd listen. There was much more to Harry than fishing, he recalls. I remember Harry saying there was much more to be learned from the simple act of casting a line over the water and sending a seeking hook into the depths of the sea. Harry talked of death as a fisherman. Franco reminisced. I remember him once saying that every day we cast out our intentions and aspirations over the water, and every day a life beyond this one is casting out its own line in search for us all. If we're lucky, we usually elude the bait for the better part of 10 decades, although some simply can't evade the inevitable. Quite a mouthful. He went on to say that to sit and remember the good old days, one has to have once lived them. He said that we should always be thankful, even for what was in the past, or has simply been taken away in an untimely fashion. To have been blessed with a gift, even if it was only briefly, is still a blessing, even when viewed in retrospect. I'm sure that when we think about the life of Harry today, we could think of no truer words that could be spoken. When we think of the life of Harry, we can only reiterate his words. To have been blessed with the gift of his life, even if only briefly, is still such a blessing. And if we were to reflect on any of his life lessons this morning, I think his final words would be, "Don't cry for me, gone fishing." We're just going to listen to a short song. It comes from Evita, one of Harry's favourite songs, "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina."
It won't be easy, you'll think it's strange when I try to explain how I feel, that I still need your love after all that I've done. You won't believe me, all you will see is a girl you once knew, although she's dressed up to the nines, at 6s and 7s with you.
Today we light candles to symbolise the life and memory of Harry. These 4 candles represent the lives of his children, his 4 children, and his grandchildren, his 4 grandchildren. Let us examine the flames of these candles. These fragile flames can be extinguished with just a gust of air, or if left to burn, the flame will live on, but eventually it will diminish. A candle has its allotted span of life and time to burn, Yet while the candle burns, it radiates a light and heat and expels darkness. For many of us, we hold the experience of death as a loss, a time of darkness. We see it as an ending. Like the candle, it seems that our lives have a time to shine and then to be extinguished. But at this time, let us examine the gift of memories. Memories allow the light of life's moments to be rekindled and the light of life to shine again. As we come together today, let us allow this gift of memories to rekindle in our hearts and continue to shine the light of Harry, even though the candle of his body has passed. We're now going to look at a slideshow showing some photos of Harry's wonderful fishing. We'll also listen to a song by Trace Adkins called Just Fishing.
I'm lost in her there holding that pink rod and reel. She's doing almost everything but sitting still. Talking about her ballet shoes and training wheels and her kittens. And she thinks we're just fishing. I say, Daddy loves you, baby, one more time. She says, I know, I think I've got a bite. And all this laughing, crying, smiling, dying here inside's what I call living. And she thinks we're just fishing on the riverside, throwing back what we could fry, drowning worms and killing time.
We've been remembering with love and gratitude the life of Harold George Smith, whose life has touched us all. I encourage you as family and friends to help, support and love all those who grieve today. Let us cry with them, listen to them, share the load of their pain, and allow them time to be healed. And let us demonstrate our love for one another, for love is the greatest gift that we can give to each other. Amen.
What does it mean